This is the 40 Thrive Podcast, Episode 9.
You're listening to the 40 Thrive Podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. Get exclusive access to expert advice, support, and strategies that will inspire, motivate, and give you the tools to not just survive, but thrive. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Welcome to the 40 Thrive Podcast. I'm your host, Jackie McDougall. I am so happy you're here today because we've got quite a treat. Today on the show, actress Christine Adams. You may know her from the CW show Black Lightning, or perhaps you've seen her on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, or one of the many, many roles that she has played over the past several years. So Christine Adams stars as Lynn Pierce on the show Black Lightning. It is all about superheroes, and I just love her character because she's surrounded by people with superpowers, but let's be honest, she's the one with the power. Before we talk to Christine, real quick, I just want to invite you to download my 10 simple tips to start thriving today. It's on 40thrive.com. I think there are some little nuggets in there that can really help you in simple, easy ways to just really start bringing the thrive into your life. And so check it out over on 40thrive.com, 10 tips to start thriving today. All right, so let's just get into it. Let's talk to the incredible Christine Adams. Christine, welcome to the 40 Thrive Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I love podcasts and I love being 40. The perfect fit.
Absolutely. So one of the things we love to do here on the 40 Thrive Podcast is highlight badass women over 40 who are living in their truth and with no apologies, kicking ass, taking names. And the cool thing about you is not only are you one in real life, but you get to play one as well.
I know. How lucky am I? I mean, I think sort of I'm lucky in terms of the creators behind the show. I think they've written really strong women. So obviously in that respect, it's great for me because as an actress of a certain age, you want to play some roles that have some substance. So, I love the fact that she is really strong. She is kick-ass, but there's also, she's not perfect. And I think that's something sort of that being of a certain age, you start to embrace. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Hollywood in the past was notorious for, the women over 40 were kind of a supporting character in that they were baking bread or, working in an office.
Yeah.
So, and especially women of color were not represented in a way that other women could see as someone they would want to be like.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we're actually Hollywood sort of listening to the needs, or is this really an exception to the rule?
Yeah, it's funny. I think that's sort of like a twofold question, because I think on the one hand, let's face it, it is show business, and these films are making money. So I think that's been the biggest kind of transition, that the sort of the realization that, you can have a strong female character at the center of a story and people want to watch it. And I think, I just went to see The Wife with Glenn Close, and, she's a 70-year-old actress. She's beautiful. And the whole movie is about her and her experience of being, a wife. And I just found it so empowering and encouraging to watch, because I want to be working into my 70s. So I think they are paying attention, because I think actually these films and these TV shows have an audience, and people want to see good stories, and I think that's sort of driving it. And I think it's sort of it's just our turn, to be honest with you.
I absolutely agree. But when you were in your 30s, or you've been acting for a long time, but really coming into your own and showing up in a new way, I think, since maybe turning 40 or a little before you turned 40. So do you show up any different now than you would have 10 years ago?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, look, when I was in my 20s and I was an actress going to auditions, I wore, very tight clothes and very, high heels, and showed a bit of cleavage, because that's ultimately sort of, in a way, that was sort of part of it. You're playing those roles. You're playing someone's playing someone's girlfriend, you're playing someone's wife, you're playing the eye candy. I mean, that was just a sort of given, you know, and I don't know how different that is now, because obviously I'm not in my 20s, and I'm not playing the ingenue. You know, I think one of the biggest things for me, and one of the biggest transitions for me as an actor, was really just becoming a mother. I think really shifted my whole perspective on obviously what it is to be a woman, but then also be a woman in the business. Like, what kind of stories did I want to tell? Did I suddenly want to be in roles where, you know, I might be naked? Did I, you know, what kind of roles did I want to play? What kind of stories do I want to tell? And what am I bringing to those roles that I wouldn't have, you know, before I had children? So it's kind of, for me, the whole thing is kind of enmeshed in my personal growth as a woman, and where that's taken me as an actor. And I think the qualities of getting older and having kids, and then that starts to kind of become who you are. So, for example, you know, there was a weird time at which I was going for these roles, which I was sort of on paper, you know, too old for, but they would say, well, she looks young, bring her in. But I could never get those roles because I knew, you know, I had kids and I was older, and there was something different about me that wasn't there before. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect sense.
A much deeper sort of understanding, and, you know, something a bit more substantive. And I think that's sort of ultimately what led me to this role of Lynn, is that all of those things came together in that perfect sort of synchronicity of, like, I'm actually ready to play the mother of these young women. I know what that feels like. And I think that was just kind of like a fortunate set of circumstances. But I do think, you know, any fantastic actors that you watch now, you know, the Viola Davises, the Octavia Spencers, you know, those are women who have lived, and I think you can see it in their work. And I think that's why actresses really do get better when they get older. They do.
I agree, because I see some of these women and they've always been remarkable actresses.
Of course.
But there's this level of, they can play the nuanced, complicated lives in a different way than before when they were younger.
Yeah, and I think there's less sort of, in some ways, and again, this is Hollywood, so of course we are in a business of, like, how you look, but I do love this idea of being less afraid of what that looks like when you get older. And, you know, I love this whole wave of a lot of women not colouring their hair, and, you know, a lot of people sort of showing who they really are. And I think, you know, that's something great about seeing older actors on the screen, is that they've let go of a lot of that. You know, I'm going to be like the older sexy woman, but I'm never going to be the young totty that all the boys fawn over, and that's completely fine. There are lots of young, gorgeous actresses that can fulfill that role. But, you know, I'm a different kind of sexy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it's my version. And if people like it, then great. If they don't, that's fine too. You know, I'm okay with it. And that's one of the best things about, I think, getting older, is that you just give less of a shit.
Absolutely. We give zero fucks around here. So let's talk about your character for a second, Lynn Pierce, because she's surrounded by superpowers. But let's be honest, we all know that Lynn is the one with the power.
Yeah, she's got the superpower, hasn't she?
Yeah, she really does.
She's like the all-seeing, all-knowing, you know, voice in the family, you know. And initially, sort of, as when the show started, she was kind of the glue that held it together, and now, sort of, going into season 2, we see that she's got her own kind of storyline and her own journey that she is going on, and also, you know, sort of making these discoveries sort of internally and externally, and really navigating what it's like to love people who sort of have made a choice that could ultimately take them away from her. I mean, she's really having to go to another place to try and understand what it is they want to do, you know, and they're all kind of growing and learning. And that is what I love about Lynn, is that, you know, she knows she's got a way to go, and she knows she's not perfect, and she knows she's made mistakes, and she knows she's made some bad choices. And I think, you know, I love that about her character, that she's constantly questioning that.
I think that she's really a great example. You know, there are a lot of women that I meet in the 40 Thrive community where they feel like, oh, well, this was my opinion going into my 40s, so this is where my opinion needs to stay. But in actuality, they don't feel the same way, but they are conflicted. They're conflicted. They're not allowing themselves to grow and to maybe look at things in a different way.
Yeah.
And I like that Lynn is constantly evolving.
Yeah, well, I think that for me, and I know we've all read it, that's what I loved about Michelle Obama's book, and about, you know, her whole sort of sense of, you know, people saying, you know, the question that she hates the most is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she has always felt like this is a journey. And I didn't know who I was going to be when I was 20. I had these ideas. I didn't know who I was going to, I don't know who I'm going to be in 5 years' time,
right.
15 years' time, 20 years' time. And that's good. And I'm embracing it. And I think that's what I love about that idea, is that women are so good at evolving and shape-shifting. I mean, any woman that I know already, I feel like, has gone through, you know, so many stages of growth, and this ability to kind of, well, I did that for 10 years and I was really good at it, but now I'm going to do this and I'm going to get really good at it. And I love the sort of forward motion of women and how we're so adaptable and so able to be many things and be multifaceted. And I think that's sort of the essence of Lynn, like who she was. You know, we had I'm going to give you a little reveal, but we had a scene a couple of episodes ago where she talks about when she first met Black Lightning. And I had a real problem with this scene, because actually what she was saying is, I was in my 20s. I actually wasn't that into him. I thought he was quite boring. And it's this whole scene. I thought it was quite boring. And I thought that ultimately, you know, when I sort of realised that he had these powers, essentially I was a bit like, well, I'm a scientist, this could be kind of interesting.
Right.
And I really had a problem with that scene, because I was like, no, that's not who Lynn is. She would never do that. She's got too much integrity. And then I thought about it and I thought, well, actually, maybe in her 20s, that's how she thought about things, right?
Right.
You have these assumptions. You think you know all the things. You think you know what you're going to be and what you're going to do. And then something comes along and completely changes your perspective. And I think, you know, that's something that women are really good at. You know, we can sort of have these life-changing moments, whatever they are, and we can really take those and turn them into something even better, you know. And that's what I love about Lynn, and actually about being a woman, that there's this like there's just the endless possibilities. And now with everything that's happening right now, it feels like, you know, the door is just wide open. I personally feel, as a sort of Black female in the industry, like this is the time to like go take it all, go through, walk through the door, whatever it is, like this is it, you know. So I think a lot of women are kind of rising to the challenge, as we've seen with, you know, all these incredible women in Congress. I mean, think about that as an example of women who literally were mothers working in bars, who suddenly went, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to run for office, because if I don't do it, I'm going to do it.
It's unbelievable. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I met someone the other night at the State of the Union watching party. She's the representative for a small city in Georgia called Albany. lovely lady. We sat down. I said, so, why? Why did you do it? And she said, I just thought, if not me, who? And I just felt like my community really had the worst end of the stick. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. And she said, and to be honest with you, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just feeling my way through, but somebody has to do it. And I just think that is so remarkable that women can do that. It's fearless, isn't it?
It's funny because I have a theory on the word fearless. Sometimes we use it when in actuality, she's probably very fearful, but she's pushing through it, which is even more incredible,
Yeah. Yeah.
But think about this. We have looked at politics for so long as, oh, you haven't been in the game, like as if that's a punishment or that's a negative. I love the idea that women especially and in growing numbers, women of color are standing up and saying, no, I'm not a politician. I'm somebody who cares about my community and my city, my state, my country. And that's what we need in politics, are people who are willing to give of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of ironic in a way. It's ironic, I think, because, the person that's the president right now, in a way, there's something about someone like him who has zero experience stepping up to and getting into a position of that magnitude that actually sort of embolden people to go, well, if he's doing it, I sure as shit can do it.
Right. If there's one good thing.
So as much as I think as he is an abhorrent person, I think there's something about this moment in time which we'll look back on and go, yeah, but look what happened. We kind of had a bit of a revolution where suddenly, women everywhere were like, yeah, no, actually but enough of all of this, enough of this way of doing things. You're not going to tell us what we're going to do with our bodies. You're not going to, tell us how to parent our, whatever it is. You're not going to tell us how to parent our communities. We're going to do it. We're actually going to do it. And I think, that is sort of the great sort of bright light, I think, in this whole thing, that ultimately women, yet again, have stood up and gone, do you know what? Let me sort this shit out, okay? You guys have messed it up. You guys have messed this up. Let's clean up. Let's clean up your mess.
We've been doing it for years. Why would we not do it in the public space?
Not in the background.
Right. So I noticed that you as a role model and as a woman who many people look up to, you are vocal on your social channels in such I will say, an empowering, positive way, because there are a lot of people out there who are just trying to spark the fire. Have you always been so vocal as far as your belief system and your...
Have I always been so vocal? Yeah. Now I've got a platform. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's that thing, isn't it? And it's a really crass way of saying it. But it's like, do you use your powers for evil or for good? And for me, the two are intertwined. It's like, well, what kind of person do I want to be and what kind of stuff do I want to put out in the world? And, if this opportunity is here and if anyone gives a shit about what I think, then this is what I think. And hopefully that resonates with you. And, I try to keep it positive and I try to, encourage people to sort of come from a place of authenticity. And that's always been my thing, is like, is this something that I genuinely care about? And if it is, I'm going to talk about it. And if it's not, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, because there are tons of people out there talking about stuff, thank goodness, and doing it really, really well. Again, I think sort of social media is a blessing and a curse, because we've got the platforms, we're finding out about so much more because of social media. At the same time, it definitely breeds something disturbing in terms of like what it opens up. I mean, even yesterday, this guy on Twitter was talking about how, Democrats were pro-abortion and pro-this and pro-killing babies and pro-infanticide and I just, I started to engage with him, and I thought, no, Christine, what are you doing? This is exactly what he wants. But by the way, why does this guy think it's okay to tell women what they can do with their bodies? You know, there are just like certain things which really upset me, you know, gun reform and, you know, women's rights and, you know, civil rights. I mean, these are things that I feel just on a very personal level. You know, I've got 2 kids and I'm a woman and I'm Black and I live in America. So, you know, on so many levels, these are things that I really care about really deeply. So I'm glad that I've got the platform, but I'm also, I sort of sometimes get upset that the reality is there is still a lot of people out there that think in a way that is, you know, upsetting and sort of, I don't know, dated, I guess.
Right. But you know what's interesting is when we used to debate issues like this. So imagine that man who's probably trying to get your reaction. He's probably in his basement playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like for some reason we see a tweet or something and we give that person this power that ultimately in life they don't have. Yeah. You know, it's fascinating on social media.
Here's the other thing that I do, sort of something that I'm really trying to think about in terms of just what's happening right now and the conversations we're having and just the conversations that are out there in terms of women and politics and just sort of our progress and our challenges, is that I think overall we, all of us, need to sort of look a bit deeper and go a bit deeper and sort of not get too caught up in these very sort of quick, satisfying stories, headlines, you know, that obviously just really are kind of like clickbait. You know, I think
100%.
As human beings, I think it really would help us to just look a bit deeper and just, if you see a headline, don't make an assumption. You know, look around, ask some questions, have a conversation about it, do your research, go to a real news source. You know, Facebook isn't a real news source. Neither is Twitter, neither is Instagram. These are quick sort of, you know, flashes of, to some extent, you know, entertainment, and it moves at a very fast speed. And I feel like, you know, and just, you know, bringing it back to Black Lightning, I think that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to look a bit deeper in terms of, you know, Tobias isn't just like a bad guy. Something happened to him in his childhood. These kids aren't slinging drugs because that's what Black kids do. They don't have shit, and life is hard, and that's all they know. So, and I really think that's something that's very unique about our show, and I think that's something we should be striving for now, when just as the more this information comes at us about, you know, what's happening in America, let's just look a bit deeper and let's try to see beyond, you know, a headline or a brown face or you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I love that the show is meant, or at least for me, I see conversations come out of it. I have 2 teenage boys and a tween daughter. And just some of the subtle issues and some of the conversations, it's amazing to be able to talk to your kids when it's not necessarily about them as well. Yeah. I feel like you get more out of the conversation with your children when you're using somebody else as an example.
100%. And I never want to plug another show, but I think, you know, I think that's why Blackish is so extraordinary, because I think it's allowed people to have those conversations. And right now, those are the conversations we need to be having.
Absolutely.
We have to have these comfortable, weird, awkward conversations about, you're the mother of a daughter. So I don't know how old she is, but mine's going to be 13.
She's 12, yeah.
We have to start talking about no means no and consent and who's, what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate. What do you put out on social media? She hasn't even got social media.
Mine either. Yeah, I'm holding out.
Yeah, because, it's really, these are the conversations we need to have. Girls look at social media, they get bullied, they have, we've got so many problems with depression and anxiety. We have to have those conversations with each other, with our children, with our friends, with our co-workers. we have to talk about race, we have to talk about, we have to get down and dirty and talk about it, you know, and I think, you know, that's what I love about Black Lightning, and I think that's what I love, you know, the community around the show. And sometimes I don't like the things that people say, but nevertheless, those are the conversations. So you can't have one without the other. You can't go into this territory and not have some sticky pushback, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for coming on the show, and I thank you for being this role model for so many women over 40 who are thinking...
Yeah, and can I say, when I was 20, I never thought I was going to be a role model, so there you go. Like, if you'd have said to my 20-year-old self, you will be a role model at the age of... I mean, I would have laughed in your face.
Aren't you so glad that life didn't go the way we had it planned?
I'm so glad that social media didn't exist then.
Oh,
that's what I'm so glad about.
I say that all the time. Yes, I'm extremely grateful for that. So, Christine, before we go, yes. I ask all of my guests this. So, sorry to put you on the spot, but what does it mean to you to 40 thrive?
I mean, I think ultimately just becoming your authentic self and feeling really comfortable in your skin and really putting on whatever it is, like whether it's a metaphorical outfit or a real outfit, whatever jacket or coat you decide to wear, that's the right one for you and that fits you perfectly and that's your jacket, and it could be hideous to everyone else. This is terrible enough, I'm going to keep going with it. Like it's yours and it really doesn't matter. And it's that, to me, that's like the sexiest, strongest, like that's our power, really.
Absolutely. I think being over 40 is like the ability to really lean into who you are meant to be and not trying to be who you think other people expect you to be.
Exactly. Amen. Bravo.
And you and your character both embody that. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I've loved talking to you.
Check out Monday's episode of Black Lightning. It's called The Book of Secrets, Chapter 3, Pillar of Fire. And check out Black Lightning every Monday, 8 Central on the CW. You can check your local TV listings for where Black Lightning airs in your city. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. Not only will you be able to listen to the show on your favorite podcast app, it will show up automatically without your needing to do a thing. All you need to do is hit play. If you think Christine is as amazing and badass as I do, share the episode with a friend. You know she could use a little bit of inspiration and motivation, and I think this is the episode for her. See you next time. Take care and keep thriving.
Spring has sprung, and with the change of seasons, sometimes comes an increase in vitality. If you're feeling in the mood for a little more personal time, may I suggest Coconut. Coconut is all about providing clean and natural ingredients when you're enjoying your most intimate moments, with or without a partner. Naturally safe products developed by people who are obsessed with quality. Get 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut. That's 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut.